Hello everyone, welcome back. So today we will discuss the cell variable. This is our next topic in this uh, class. So cell module, right? So in one of the class we have understood the CLI, right? So CLI is a command line interface, the terminal, right, through which we are connecting to our servers that will help you to interact with your servers, right? But to run all these that CLI, right, we need one shell, right? So shell is something where you can run the command, where you can like it is a different behavior, right? So mostly we are using the bash shell. We have the other shell as well, like we have the KSH shell, we have the ZSH shell, right? So there are multiple C shell, there are multiple shells already there in, right? So mostly I have seen that we are using the bash shell, and there are scenario where we are using the KSH shell as well, G shell as well, C shell as well, right? But within this RHCSA, we will focus on only on the bash shell, right? So let me go back to our server. So this is our server which we are using throughout the journey for this demo. So there is a parameter called shell, right? So these are the variables. Maybe we'll talk about what our variables. So as of now, you can see this is been set to bin bash. So bin bash is my shell, right? This is the command line interface. Like whenever I am logging in, right? So automatically, let's see. So we have understood the pass WD, right? So in pass WD, we have understood like whenever you are logging in with your account, right? Let's say I have this Ansible user, we have this path for cloud, right? We have this Nginx, we have the Prometheus. So there are multiple users already being there, right? But can you see that only few of them are allowed the bin bash, right? So like without any shell you cannot interact with your CLI, you cannot interact with your server, right? There are few which we called as a system user, they don't need to log into that server, right? So we intentionally set it to a no login, right? No bin bash, no login, so that they cannot be assigned the terminal, that pseudo terminal, right? So they cannot log into the box. But for a normal user to work on the server, definitely we need any shell, right? So here we are using this user and it is being assigned to this bash. Again, this Ansible user, this is also assigned to a bin bash, right? So let's see how we can manipulate, right? So what all these are doing is like whenever you are logging in, so you can see this prompt got changed, right? And maybe this history size, you can see this number is coming, right? Maybe the timing is not coming, so we'll try to set the time, like when this particular command was ran in the system, what was the date and time. Maybe that is crucial for our servers to know, like for a particular command or whatever the particular command you already ran, what was the time, date and time for that execution, right? So all these kind of behavior you can manipulate, you can change according to your requirement. That is what that shell is, right? So we have multiple cells, we have multiple files as well to manage those cells, right? So there is a file called etc profile. So profile is nothing. Profile is a master's file, right? System-wide environment and startup programs for the login setup, right? Whenever you are logging in, right? So definitely there is something happening at the background which is creating the environment, which is creating the scenario like you can log in and you can work, right? So this profile, right? So this is a master, this is a global file which is applicable to all users. Doesn't matter what the cell you are using, whether it's a bash cell, whether it's a KSH cell, though you can create a dedicated file, these environment file according to your shell, right? But this is something which is applicable to all other shell as well, right? Whatever that you can see that we can define this if function, sorry, if and else condition, we can define some functions, we can define some parameters here. These are the variables with the parameter you can set. You can set this hist size equal to 1000. So that means that we can see up to 1000 history. Whenever that 1001 command will run, the above one number one command will get vanished, right? It will get overridden, right? And there are few other parameter. We have that dot D as well, which is a drop-in directory. Will discuss what drop-in. This drop-in directory will help with what, and yeah, there are few others. So let's see what our notes says. So etc profile to take effects at login time. Obviously that we just understood applies at login time for all users for all type of cells. So that is your etc profile. But we have this dot profile file for the this tilde symbol you can see that is for your if you press the shift and the key which is just below escape on your keyboard, you will get this symbol, right? So here, now I am in my home directory, home and civil, right? Let's say whether do we have this? So ls command is just listing the regular files which are not hidden, right? If you want to see the hidden file, obviously you need to put a, which will give you a hidden file as well. So here we can see we have something called bash history, we have something called bash logout, bash profile, and bash RC, right? So as of now, I am interested in these three files: bash profile, bash RC, and bash history. Right. So let's start with the bash profile. So that's what we have seen, right? So this profile is apply for users only, all type of select logins, right? So that etc profile is applicable at the global level for all users. But what if you want to set it for a particular user, right? Then you can go to that particular home directory and you can set this thing if you wanted to set anything. So this is applicable to the dot profile. But if you want to set it for the cell perspective, right? Like I'm using the bash. So what you can do? You can do that stuff inside what? Inside this bash RC file. And this settings, whatever that you will gonna set here, that is applicable to particular cell. And that is our bash cell in the case. Similarly, we have this bash RC file and that is applicable to all bash logins, right? So it is a very huge file. So if you want, you can just explore because these are default file. It is not something that which I created. No, when you set up your lab, when you log in, right? When you install your box, these files come by default as a native, which are already embedded inside your OS. Okay, so let's come again to our this. So here we can see this bash RC is for our local user specific bash environment specific settings or parameter you can set. Bash profile is irrespective of any cell you can set, right? And globally we have something called etc profile and etc bash RC, right? Now, what cell parameters or variables, right? See, there are few parameters. Let's say if I just want to say class equal to RHCSA, right? So whenever I'm going to call this class, so I want that the value should be RHCSA, but it is saying command not found, right? So there should be a specific syntax you need to call this variable, right? You cannot call directly this, right? Because this way, this bash cell is looking to what? Looking to your path where your other binaries are sitting. Let's say I can see this USR bin. So here you can see that we have multiple binaries, right? We have the test, we have the top, we have ping, we have htop, we have GPG, we have this BG, BC, bash. So all these binaries, right? So now the question is, how can I call this? So for that, again, you need to use echo and then you need to put this symbol and you need to pass that variable name. Now the cell knows, okay, I am trying to call the value which was assigned to that particular variable. So this way you can see this echo doll class is saying RHCSA. All right. But anytime whenever you are saying, right, so it is a best practice. Always use caps, right? Don't value you can put anything, right? Let's say you can put bin slash ls slash rhcsa, anything value you can put, right? But it is the very like very followed the best practices. We will keep the all caps letter in our variable name, so that will yeah, that is a kind of best practice in the industry standard we'll see, right? So when you do this, right, so I can see that echo class, right? So let's see if I am just taking one more bash shell, right? You can see that I am in another shell now. If you see, you can see this is Ansible user and it is in different, let's say if I can get something from here. Yeah, here you can see we have this one session is this one, right? And one is this one. So let's call the same variable, but here it is giving me the empty. Let's come out from this shell and run this again, but here it is giving me the value. Why? Because when you set this right on fly, like on the terminal itself, when you are trying to set the variable like this, that is only applicable to that particular session. It will not be there for each and every session, right? Because here when I am using the bash, or if I try to take the another session as well, so what is happening is this file got executed, right? This file got executed and it doesn't know about this parameter, what is this dollar class, right? That is the reason with the new session we never got that value. So how we can make it persistent? That is the next question, right? So to make this persistent, what you need to do is you need to set in the bash RC, right? So let's go and just try to set my own variables, and I will gonna put this as a class equal this, right? Now, if you are setting, let's say now class we know, right? Let's say I am setting one more. Let's say media equal to path for cloud. Fine. Now let's call this class. It knows this. Let's call the media. Still it doesn't know. Now you will say that you mentioned that if we put the variable in the bash RC, then my cell will know. Oh, yes, that's true. But whatever the changes you have done in the .bash RC file, that is still not readable by your bash. So what you need to do, either you can log out and log into your cell, or you can take a new session, or the best option is just source that file again, so that your cell knows, okay, there is something changed in the file which I need to take it. And this time you can see echo media is giving you the output, right? So there are three ways. If you are changing anything in your bash RC or maybe bash profile and you want to see, right, what you can do is you can log out and log into the same session to the same server. You can get the new session on the same screen like we did last time, right? Went to the bash and then we were trying. Or the best solution is just source that file, and now your bash knows, okay, what all you have done. And how we can call it? You can just simply environment, right? So here you can see there are multiple things already being how from where it is coming. Now you will see if I see this bash RC. Here it is very less thing, right? It is just checking the path and checking this file, right? So you can see that it is importing this bash RC. So from this file, it is coming these other things which you can see. So all these things are coming from that file. So here you can see his control, his size, host name. Let's see where our class and media is there. Path is there. Okay. So why it is not? Yeah, that will maybe showing it as what do you call that? Aliasing, right? And we have set this media. So those are the simple parameter, right? Maybe source will not help. So what we will do? I'll just take one more session, and now this time if I'll work, it should show path is showing. Where is the shell and this is PWD, this is SLNX, users. Those all are settings coming from your base RC, but why I can't see my variables which is sitting in this base RC? Yeah, this class and this media. It should show. Not sure why it is not showing. Anyways, I'll show you a different thing. Okay, so here we have this hist file size, right? So let's try to save this dot bash rc, and I'll say, let's say equal to 500, or maybe let's say 2000. And if I just want to store the, notice this space, right? So that you will get some space between time and date and your command, right? If you will not put this space here, white space, then there will be no space in between your command and time. Okay, let's source this file again. And this time if I'll just run history, so you can see that it is showing me the date, but hist time format. Why it is showing like that? Maybe let me check. But hist file size is changed to 2000, and it is showing me this date and time. Okay, twice it is showing, right? So maybe we have set it twice, and then you can see this space I am talking about. So let's do one. Yeah, it is pasted twice. So this space I was talking about. So if you run this history again, yeah, obviously we need to source, right? And then it knows this. So now it is perfect. So it is showing you the date, the time, and then the white space is what I was talking about, right? So this white space I was talking about, this, and then your command. So this way you will now I have run only 436 command, but obviously it will show you that stuff. So he's okay. It is coming from the bash profile. I'm not sure why it is not showing. It should show, but let's take one more session. Probably this sourcing will not work this way. Okay, now let's see environment. And do we have? Oh no, it still shows his size. 1000. Do we have that class and the media? I cannot see. Yeah, I will check and will tell you like why it is not showing. But yeah, this way you can implement, right? Implement all these stuff from the bash RC file. Okay, so this all we have changed hist file size or maybe that hist time format, right? So this is the file which can manipulate, right? Which can change the behavior of the current parameters, right? Apart from that, what we can do is we can set some kind of aliasing, right? Let's say I can set alias. So to set the alias, you need to pass this alias keyword, and let's say I am just setting the for the ls when I want to run this ls hyphen l, I wanted to run this command in fact, right? Let's say as of now I'm running l, right? It is just simply listing out the file. There is no hidden file or something. Now, let's do one thing. Let's source this file, and now if I just run ls or ls hyphen a, the both command will behave the same way because we have set the alias ls to ls hyphen la. And how to check that alias? You can just run the alias command, and here it will show you, okay, what you have done. I have done this, and these all are coming again from that master global file. But here we have set the some ANR Ansible Navigator and this ls, this one ls hyphen la, right? So that is how it is being worked. Now to display, yeah, alias we have seen. Now we can set some kind of functions as well, right? So what are those functions? Functions is something where you want to set some, right? Let's say my cd. Just copy this. So what this function will do when I am trying to call this my cd, I'm passing some parameters. So what exactly this will do? It will create that directory and then take you to that directory, right? Let's try again. Source this bash rc and my cd. So it is saying missing operand, right? Because it is calling this make directory, and make directory requires that some kind of parameters to create, right? So let's do one thing. Let's create cloud, and indeed you can see it has created the directory called cloud, and then it has cd to the cloud. If you run the pwd, so here you can see we are in the cloud directory, right? So our function is working, right? Apart from that, what you can do is you can set some aliasing as well. Let's say this alias we have in our shell. So what I will do is I will set this as well. Okay, it is not right. It was in home directory. So this way you can see what it is saying is it is saying that when I am calling this my c, right? My, what is this? Yeah, my c source dot bash rc, and I'm going to call my c, let's say etc fs tab. Okay, yeah, because it is alias, right? It is not something that, so we need to do this way. My c, and let's source this file again. And this time, if you're gonna run etc fs tab, so it will just list all the lines which is not starting with uh, it is not starting with the this hash, right? We are excluding those, but you can see that here we have this hash, right? But in the previous output, that line was not visible, right? So it is up to you, like whatever your requirement is, what you are doing and what you want, right? So same way you can do this stuff, right? So here my cd is the function, yeah, that we have already discussed. Apart from that, if you want to, by default your editor is vimrc, right? It's not saying, but if you want to export this, right? Let's say export editor nano, right? Like if I am doing this vim or maybe nano etc fs tab. Okay, so nano is not installed in this system, but this is the way, right? Like whenever you must have seen in the Windows, right? If Windows is finding a multiple extension or the application to open a particular file, so it will ask you, okay, in which application or the editor you want to open that file. So you can set one default there, right? So similarly, the same thing you can do here as well, right? So that will lead to set the default editor for yourself. Apart from that, this path, right? So the path is variable, right? Whatever the executable binaries are sitting across the system, right? So these are the paths where you can run those commands, right? Let's say what I will do is I will just say cp ls and I'm gonna place this mnt only, right? Mnt ls. Okay, cp is we obviously we need to find that usr bin ls and then we need to put it mnt ls. Permission denied, yeah, obviously. So what I will do is I will use sudo to do this stuff, right? Now I will just say sudo chmod plus x bin and ls. Now let's say, okay, I need to rename, right? Because ls we will not uh, be identified which ls is working, right? So I want to rename it to my ls. What is happening? MNT, let's do one thing. CD MNT and we have ls, so ls and then I'm just saying my ls. So yeah, maybe sudo is not working with this. Okay, we forgot to put the mv command here, right? To rename it. That was the problem. So let's come to the Ansible user. Now let's say if I'm trying to use this my ls, right? It is not working, right? But what I want is I want to this to be added to my path. So what you can do is you can obviously you can set this path in your bash rc file, but what I need to do is I need to do this. I want to set this path. Whatever is already set, I just want to set this as well, mnt, right? Now if I run my ls, so you can see that it is working, right? So this command I was not able to call when there was no path set. But if you now see your path, echo dollar path, so here you can see I have added this MNT and MNT knows we have some executable binary there and that is the reason like it is showing you, right? So that is how we can do this. And how we can do all this? We can run the env command. But why it is not showing whatever we have already set? Hmm, I think we are missing something. Let's do one thing. Let's go inside this one more time. Okay, I think we need to do one thing. We need to define this as with the export so that your cell will be able to export this as a what you call this environment, right? Let's try. I think that is the part we are missing. So now if I run env, so do we have those yeah, this time you can see the class it is showing this one, right? So obviously we have them media somewhere. Path is also there and its file size 2000 you can see, right? So definitely the media is already there, right? Export editor is already there, right? So that's what we have done. So yeah, whenever you want to set some variable, right? So if you do this without any export, then that will be treated as a local variable to that particular terminal. But if you want this to be exported as an environment variable, right, then you need to define this export key. So that is the difference, right? That was the part we are missing here, right? So, yeah, this is something we can see. Apart from that, whatever, if you want, you can change this prompt, right? As of now, there is a parameter called this one. So what it is saying, this one. So it is defining here also it is mentioned. This is for user, then this is for host name, and this is for your working directory, right? Let's say if I'm going inside different directory, so you can see that now this is for user at the rate host name, then give some white space here, right? This one, and then it is giving me the working directory, and then it is prompting from the dollar. Dollar is obviously for the normal user, but when you switch to a master user, then it will be automatically switched to hash symbol, right? But this is applicable here as well. So these are the cell variables, guys, which generally uh, we missed, right? Why it is important? Let's say I'll give you one use case. Let's say you are giving some writing some what uh, script, right, where we are calling some variables, and those variables we are using as a kind of dynamically, right? So what you can do, you can set those variables in your user's home directory, maybe dot profile or maybe dot bash rc. In that scenario, you don't need to pass the values in the script. If you're calling a nested script, or you're calling multiple scripts, right? Or you're using the same variables, multiple lines, multiple places in your script, right? So you simply call that variable from that bash RC. Going forward, if you need to change the value, then you just need to change that in dot profile. You don't need to touch your script. So that is the benefit of using this cell variables. Maybe when we start our bash cell script in this class, then probably I will show you this. I will touch this topic again, like how you can do this, right? So as of now, let's understand, okay, these cell variables are something which can change the behavior of your cell. If you want to set some additional parameter, or if you want to set additional functions, add some additional aliasing, right? So those things you can do from your end, right? So that is the cell variable. Okay, so that was the cell, and let me show you if we have lab. So lab, I didn't get time to update still, but yeah, definitely before we reach to this, we will update the lab in this scenario. Okay, I know we have finished. So grep, okay, grep is different. So but we will discuss in next class, right? So grep is something to filter out your stuff from the shell, right? So as of like in this class only, we discuss the shell variable, how you can set the shell variable, how you can call it, how you can export it, how you can set the environment variables, and all this. So this is something that we have discussed. All right. So let's meet in the next class where we're gonna see the grep, what grep is, and what are the other regular expression, or maybe the filter, or maybe the syntax you can use, and you can play with the output of your file. All right. Okay, then I will meet you in the next video. Hope you already subscribed to the channel and shared it with your other friends or colleagues or maybe the college going students. We wanted to learn the Linux from the scratch to the guru level. Yeah. Thank you guys, and we'll meet you in the next video.